Now, tensions are growing between China and the Philippines in the disputed South China Sea. China's Coast Guard has accused a Philippine ship of ramming one of its vessels, which the Philippines denies. It comes after Beijing's forces fired powerful water cannon at Philippine ships that Manila says caused damage and injured a crew member. The two nations have been at odds over control of the Scarborough Shoal since 2012, when Beijing's forces seized the area. In this latest twist, Beijing declared the area a nature reserve just last week in a move that Manila is calling illegal.
This is Scarborough Shoal. Seized by China from the Philippines after a tense naval standoff in 2012, it's long been a flashpoint in the sensitive waters of the South China Sea. Last week, in a new twist, Beijing declared the rich coral ecosystem a national nature reserve.
It conforms to China's domestic and international laws and fully reflects that China, as a responsible big country, actively protects the ecological environment and promotes the mission of achieving sustainable development.
The only problem, Scarborough Shoal is inside the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. It's more than 900 kilometres from China's southernmost point and just 200 kilometres from the Philippine coast. Is claimed by both countries.
The Philippines, likewise, has the exclusive authority to establish environmental protection areas over its territory and relevant maritime zones. The Philippines will be issuing a formal diplomatic protest against this illegitimate and unlawful action by China.
China says virtually the whole of the South China Sea, a vital waterway for global trade and home to rich fishing grounds, is part of its sovereign territory. Despite a 2016 international tribunal ruling that Beijing's claims here have no legal basis, China has been occupying islands, reefs and shoals, often dredging up coral to build military infrastructure, disrupting the livelihood of Philippine fishers.
Hipokrito sila, no?
They are hypocrites. The government of China are hypocrites. How can they declare the Scarborough Shoal in the West Philippine Sea as theirs to build a nature reserve? They are the ones destroying Scarborough Shoal in the first place.
While China has been accused of damaging coral and marine life there, it has not built any military outposts in the shoals, as it has in other parts of the South China Sea, such as the Spratly Islands. China's expansion is something Manila, backed by its defence treaty ally the US, has vowed to push back against. Violent confrontations at sea are on the rise. But this is a new move for Beijing, declaring a nature reserve in a high-profile disputed area. So why the change in tactic?
I think that they are trying to put out there that the takeover of Scarborough Shoal is complete, that the Philippines would be best, and the rest of the world would be best served simply to move along, except that China is going to be the steward of Scarborough Shoal, and, that it will be an environmentally responsible steward.
In the small villages along the Philippine coast, fishers can do little more than watch anxiously. China talks of sending researchers, officials and even tourists to nearby Scarborough. Locals fear fresh clashes with Chinese boats and a harder time making a living. Many here believe the nature reserve is less about conservation and more about changing the rules of the game. Once again, leaving them caught in the middle of a struggle for influence in these contested waters.
All right, let's speak with DW's Rick Glowett, who's in Taipei, for more on all of this. Good to see you, Rick. China says it's planning to crack down on what it's calling illegal activities around this nature reserve. Could this be an excuse, do you think, for stepping up confrontations with the Philippine Coast Guard?
Well, we've certainly already seen some of those confrontations, dramatic images of the water cannon and the collision between Philippine and Chinese ships. And of course, that comes with a war of words between Beijing and Manila, each of them pointing the finger at each other. But the move to make this nature reserve definitely gives China some legitimacy, and it can say that it is simply protecting a conserved area and not being provocative or aggressive. But this increase in clashes or potential clashes does have a real danger of escalation. the Philippines has a defense treaty with its ally, the US, and Washington could come to the Philippines' aid if the Philippines is under an armed attack.
China's obviously made no secret of its claims over Taiwan. How are the tensions in the South China Sea viewed in Taipei?
Well, there are obviously a lot of similarities, down to even the language that China uses, talking about historic rights, sovereignty, and calling these territorial claims an internal matter that other countries shouldn't be interfering with. We're also seeing some very similar tactics too. It's part of what's known as grey zone warfare. That's causing intimidation that doesn't quite amount to full-blown conflict. And China's actions in the South China Sea are also mirrored around Taiwan. We've seen an increase in Chinese Coast Guard activity around Taiwan's outlying islands, again, normalising Chinese presence in areas it claims sovereignty over.
The Philippines is very clear in the way it sees China's plan for a nature reserve in a South China Sea shoal. They're saying it's a clear pretext for occupation. What options does Manila have to counter Beijing's ambitions?
Well, one of those options is what we've just been watching, is that this transparency that Manila has been pursuing, making sure that it's recording these clashes, showing what actions China is doing towards its fishers, towards its government boats, and then sharing it with the media so that we can all see what's going on at sea in the South China Sea. Manila also has that very important friend, the US, that I mentioned, but it's also been penning new defence treaties with other like-minded allies in the region, like Australia and Japan. But China is, of course, a really big player in this region, and it's been showing its diplomatic weight over the last few weeks, showing its convening power with lots of leaders turning up earlier this month for that SCO summit and also the World War II victory parade in Beijing. And in fact, today, China is once again holding a defence forum, the Shangshan Forum in Beijing.
DW correspondent Rick Lauer reporting from Taipei. Rick, thank you.